Welcome back, ladies and gents, to the Behind the Brand podcast. My name is Curtis and I'm the host. Funnily enough, I've been doing this now for a wee while. Good few episodes in. But we have a fantastic new guest that I'm really looking forward to everybody getting to know their business. If you haven't bought from these people before, then I hope you do after this podcast. Now, you're no stranger to the studio. You've been in before. You've been on the lovely Hype Club podcast with Gemma.
Indeed, I was.
But sitting in front of me, folks, I have Jonathan from the Wine Cru. How are you?
Hi, I'm grand. Thank you very much. Even though this cold, damp night in Renfrew, but yeah, I'm good.
It's a night for bed, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Bed and a fire and a nice glass of wine, obviously.
And a glass of wine to go with it.
Yeah,
I mean,
most certainly.
How could you be more fit with this podcast?
Exactly.
Fantastic.
Exactly.
So, what we tend to do here, Jonathan, is we get the guest to introduce himself, talk about their business and things like that.
Sure.
And even a wee touch on their kind of journey, how they even get started. So, would you mind doing that for the listeners?
No, not at all. So, I guess we should start of how I got to open a wine business, and actually that starts way back in the 80s. I'm sorry to say, when I trained to be a chef, and whilst I was doing the training at college, as you do, I was offered a couple of extra courses that I could do and add on, and at that age you're thinking, right, the more courses you do, the more qualifications you get, better it's going to be. So and one of them was a wine course, and that really opened my eyes to the world of wine. And before that I was all about lager. I knew nothing about wine. I knew nothing about wine at all.
Man after my own heart.
Yeah. And I still do like lager, but I've moved on, and so I did this wine course, and it was the very basic entry level course about just the different types of wines, the regions that they come from, different grape varieties, and all that kind of stuff. And I just found it fascinating, and that kind of then led me to think, right, actually I'm going to learn more. So I bought a few books, also, and I bought myself a small rack that held 12 bottles of wine. So every time I went and bought a bottle of wine that I was going to drink, I bought another one to stick in this little rack. The idea being that, because obviously I was starting to learn that some wines you shouldn't drink straight away, you keep them for a few years or a long time or whatever it was. And slowly but surely, I was still living at home then. I took over my mum's house to the point where one wall in one of the rooms was just complete wine rack. Had about 350 bottles in it.
Not a short,
yeah, no, exactly that. It was also dangerous because if you had friends round and you'd maybe, you started getting into the night, it was too easy just to grab something out of the rack.
It in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. So that's really how my interest in wine started. And I think it's fair to say at that point as well I wasn't the greatest reader in the world. And so my mum latched on to the fact that I was reading these wine books and kept buying me more wine books because she was just happy to see me reading things. So that that kind of increased, and I bought more wine and so on and so forth. And I carried on within hospitality for 30 odd years, but just with wine as a hobby. And then literally my wife and I were discussing the fact, we both work for the same company, that we couldn't go on always working for somebody else, that we needed to find something a business that we could start ourselves. And it's the usual way in a relationship, is that I had no idea what to do, and Alison, my wife, says, why don't you open a wine business? You love to talk about wine, you love drinking wine, you know about wine, it's your passion. And so that's kind of how it started. So we then called in, I suppose you could say, not exactly favours from friends, but we were lucky. So a friend of mine builds websites, spoke to him. He very kindly built us a website for not very much money at all, because we didn't have any cash, obviously. And additionally, another friend of ours designs book covers. So I asked him, would he be interested in doing a logo? And sure enough, he did our logo for us. So we had the basics of the brand. But before we opened, we probably spent 2 years just buying stock and wine and storing it, because we deal in older and rarer vintages. You can't just go out to a wholesaler and say, right, I'm going to buy X amount of wine, there it is on my website, off we go. You kind of got to work at it,
I was going to say a lot of sourcing
Yeah,
then. Definitely.
absolutely. And that was it. So as I say, so 2015, we officially, we were there online. Ding, we had a nice, shiny, bright website and all that kind of stuff. Doesn't mean that anybody's going to buy any wine from you, because you've got to, find ways to promote it.
Yep.
And at that point, I was still working, and so was Alison. It was still a side hustle, and it remained as such until 2019, when I got made redundant, as a lot of people do. Nothing to do. It was pre-COVID, but at that point we decided to chuck everything into the business and see if we can, turn it into a viable bill-paying business as opposed to just a side hustle. And fortunately, that's where we are today. So
that's absolutely incredible.
Yeah,
it's incredible what and I think like when I do this sort of podcasts with people, and I'm telling them, like, a lot of them, it starts off as a side business. It's the dream, it's the passion there, and it's the dedication that gets you to that end point of you actually running your business full time. Like, obviously you want to put so much effort into it as well, but you've just been totally tossed a curveball there. I mean, made redundant and things like that, and you've went all in. Luckily, it's paid off. I know most businesses sometimes it doesn't work out like that.
No,
but
sure.
It's nice to see that somebody actually still continuing to follow their passion. I mean, after 30 years' time, when you first get introduced to wine, like, it's the journey can be long. You just have to keep going with it, I think.
I think hindsight's a wonderful thing, and I wish I'd done it years and years and years and years ago. And then we probably would have physical stores and all the rest of it by now, but obviously we're still just very much a family business online, as it were. So
no, brilliant. And I think let's even dig a wee bit deeper into what the Wine Cru does then. Could you even discuss me the services that you offer?
Of course, yeah. So fundamentally, we are a wine merchant, so therefore we offer a range of wines, and any merchant's going to say, "Oh, we have the best wines, yay!" But it's about, I think, especially when you're a small business like we are, it's about finding that sort of niche, something that sets you apart from other people, and if you can do that, you're on the right lines. And our particular niche is that we hold stocks of vintage wines going back to 1930s. So therefore we can offer those to people in terms of like birth year wines, anniversary wines, that type of thing. So it's more, yes, you can drink most of these wines, but actually it's about gifting rather than necessarily about being a wine merchant. So you could almost argue we compete with gift shops. So to that end, we do that thing where we can gift wrap them, and we put a note in for if people want us to send them direct to a recipient on their behalf with a happy birthday or happy 60th or whatever it may be. So that's a big portion of what we do. Again, because of the types of wines that we have, we also kind of look after is maybe not the right word, but we have a lot of clients who are collectors themselves.
Yeah, that's what I was going to touch on.
And they're looking for the sorts of things that you can't buy in regular shops, as it were. So we do that, and for them as well, we also sometimes source wine. So I'll get an email that says, "Hi Jonathan, I'm looking for X wine, from X vintage. If you find it, please let me know first."
I tend to find a lot of people remember the names of the bottles.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And sometimes, I mean, it varies. So there's the collectors like that. I mean, these guys are serious. They have more wine than I do, or we do in the business. But they maybe have got a run of vintages of the same wine, but they're missing one or two, and then they want me to find.
That be like years?
Yeah, absolutely, years. Yeah. So what they're looking to do is they're looking to get a complete run. So say they're looking to have wines, I don't know, every vintage from 1970 up to the present day.
Wow.
But, you know what I mean? The stuff like that, which is incredible in itself. But for me, it's great fun because, I mean, at the end of the day, it's wine, and I'm shopping. You know what I mean? No, exactly. So, who doesn't like shopping? Who doesn't like wine and all that kind of stuff? That's probably what takes up the majority of my time in terms of the business is sourcing the wines. So there's that side of it. Post-COVID, we've been able to sort of expand out into hosting wine tastings and wine and cheese nights and that kind of thing. And again, we on the website we say we offer a bespoke package, which I think always makes people a little bit nervous because people go, bespoke must be expensive. But we try to do it to suit everybody's kind of, whether it's pocket or tastes or whatever. So, we've done ones whereby I've shown different wines from different supermarkets. The idea being that people can then, if they like it, they can go buy it easily enough, and it's not going to cost them the earth. Because I also have an appreciation that you don't just, go straight into the sort of wines that I sell. I didn't, I built up you in the sense that if you take a bottle of wine that costs 50 quid versus one that costs 10 quid, yeah, you'll taste a difference.
Some sort of difference, yeah.
But is there enough difference at that point to make you think, oh, I'm stopping with that 10 quid, I'm going to spend 50 quid every time I buy a bottle of wine? No, you're not. Different wines for different occasions and all that kind of stuff. But I think, again, having an online business, which is great, the tastings thing, given my hospitality background, is what I love to do the most, because I'm in a room full of people, I'm talking about wine, which I could do all night. And again, we use sort of other people collaborate, I suppose is the word, in that what we do is we use Mellis, the cheesemongers, for the cheeses, and they've got a guy who's into his wine. So when I email him and tell him what wines I'm going to be sort of showing, and then he tells me which cheeses will match.
Oh, so you do the expert
Yeah.
Right,
so then
cool.
that comes, and then he sends me tasting notes for the cheese and all the rest of it. So when we do it, I'm not just talking about the wine, I'm talking about the cheese as well, albeit I'm kind of reading it from a script.
You're giving
for
that
his
overall experience as such,
precisely.
What somebody should be, what they should experience. Sorry.
Indeed. And we've done those in all with different formats. So we did the smallest one we did 6 people, a private one in somebody's flat, which was good. They were all going out for someone's birthday, and effectively I was providing what Scots love to call the prees.
I love that.
Absolutely. I was doing the prees, get them all, loosened up before they went out. Another one we did, which was quite weird. Well, it wasn't weird, but it was for 20 people on a barge that goes up and down the canal in Edinburgh, which was quite challenging for different reasons, because they are narrow, as they're called, and I'm trying to weave in and out of people serving wine and all the rest of it. It was quite fun.
But very fun though.
It is. I love doing that. I love doing all of that sort of kind of thing. And then I guess the last string to the bow is finding wine for people. And when I say finding wine for people, it's like somebody goes on holiday, they have a lovely bottle of wine while they're sitting somewhere in Italy or whatever, and they come and I really like to try that. They have no idea how to go about finding it. So
whether it be like a local brand to the country or whatever. Yeah.
Precisely. So I try and find that for them. And sometimes you can do it. Sometimes you can just have to say, I'm sorry, it's just not available in the UK, or wherever. And other times you get lucky. I think if you do that, the universe kind of sometimes works in your favour, and you help people. There was one I met a chap at a networking thing, and he said, "Oh yeah," he said, "There's a wine I'm desperate to try." He said, "And I really want a bottle of it. I can't. It's only available in Sweden." And he gave me the name of it, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce it because I can't. Basically, I can't.
You can offer us a laugh.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But what it was this guy's a big hardcore rocker, and there's a Swedish band, and one of the band members makes wine, but he makes wine in Italy, but then he imports it into Sweden, and it's all logoed up like the front of the band's name on it and all that kind of stuff.
Cool,
yeah, and he obviously couldn't get hold of it, and I was like, no, I'm not going to let this beat me and all that kind of chat. So I started digging around, and sure enough, Sweden. So I'm even emailing places in Sweden saying, will you send bottles to the UK? And mostly were no. Then I saw, oh, hang on a minute, there's one in Iceland, it's moved, and then just really, I suppose it wasn't luck, because I was looking for it, but from someone that I'd previously bought wine at an auction, I was looking back through the old auctions, and I saw a bottle of this from like 2 years ago, So I messaged the guy and said, I see you sold this a couple of years ago. I don't suppose you've got any more, have you? And he said, well, actually, I've got 2 bottles. Yeah, I was like, brilliant. Okay, I'll take them. So he sent them to me. And then I decided not to tell the guy that I'd got them because I was meeting him like 2 weeks later. I knew he was going to be at another networking event. So I presented these 2 bottles to him at the networking event and said, here you go. And it was worth it just for the smile on his face. Absolutely. Yeah, totally. So, yeah, that's fun.
It's interesting, like, when I'm thinking there, so you're obviously saying about you're dealing with bottles from 1930s onwards there. Where do you find these? Like, is it a case of like having to source it from different countries? I'm guessing you must have distributors, you must have people that you buy certain things. Is it all to do with auctions as well? Like,
yeah,
just
so
when I'm thinking that, I'm like, how do you find a bottle from 1940?
So we did used to buy right across Europe until Brexit absolutely killed that for us. Yep. So we now really
done most things.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, indeed. So mostly we buy wines in the UK, and over the years, so it is predominantly from auctions. That's where you find all the older stuff. Sadly, also from what are known as estate sales, where someone who was a collector of wines has passed away, whoever, if they have living relatives, they don't want the wine, so they put it up for sale. But always, when we at these auctions, obviously they're mostly online these days, I always try to make a connection to the person who's selling and then get to them sideways and say, look, next time you're selling some wine, gonna let me know and maybe we can, come to it.
Cut out, the middle.
Absolutely, because they pay commission when they put them into the auction, so I can give them a good price. They don't have to pay the commission. So I've built up a kind of, if you like, a group of small sellers who we use as well, which is good.
That's brilliant. It's brilliant to have that in hand as well, as you say. Because not only does it affect them, and they're not maybe getting the full value of what their wine is, but you're pretty much you're helping yourself there as well. You know what I mean? You're not paying above and beyond probably the markup's going to be from an auctioneer. So,
absolutely.
I think that's the clever way of doing it, to be fair.
And also for our business model as well is that we obviously have a margin that we charge, but we don't go in market value. So if we buy a bottle and we get it at a really, really good price, we put our margin on that, obviously, but we pass it on to the customer still at a really good price compared to market value, as opposed to going, all right, somebody else is selling that bottle for 70 quid, so we'll sell it for 70, we might sell it for 60. I mean, sometimes it's the same, but other times it's not,
It's interesting to see that, because I was having a flick through your website and the prices vary. Yeah. And obviously, like, again, somebody like me who has no knowledge, I'm just like, 400 quid on a bottle of wine. I can go to Tesco and get one for 7 quid.
I know.
Like, but obviously,
or you could go there and get 49 bottles.
Exactly. But it's
get that.
It's a wine is like an art, isn't it? It's a total different art form. It's, to me, it's just I'm super confused by it, and I understand that there is a massive audience for wine as well, and you know what I mean. It becomes custom to certain countries, you know what I mean? They're having their dinner and things like that as well. So it's just interesting how you find all these wines, especially from something from 1930. To me, I'm just like, how do you even like track that down? Like, it's just honestly,
I spend a lot of time on the internet. Is the easy answer. I mean, literally, I'm trawling, and I've got lots of different places. I've got lots of different keywords that will
just automatically populate.
And will flip me and say, 1937's been mentioned at such and such, and off I go and go through it.
You tend to find like your auctions and things, are they kind of all based in Scotland, or do you travel around for different shows?
So predominantly I use the online functions if they're out of Scotland, definitely. And again, it's a funny story, quick one. There's an auction house here in Glasgow called, I think it's Mulberry Bank. It's over near the airport. And they had an auction about 2 weeks ago. And I phoned them up because there was a few things I saw that they had that I was quite interested in buying, and said, look, I know this is an online, but you are an actual auctioneer. can I come in? And they said, yeah, of course. We'll leave you a paddle, with a number at the door.
It just reminds me
and
of
all the
like
rest of
Under
it.
the Hammer.
Yeah,
Like.
it was exactly like that. So of course I go, and I was the only person there. So there was three. So there's the auctioneer lady, and then she's got two like assistants next to her. So one's on a laptop from, I think it is an auction site called Easy Live or something like that, and the other one is on an auction site called the Sale Room. And so people are, and then she's on her Mulberry Bank site, and people are all bidding online. And of course, when we got to the point, and she kept thinking, oh, he's in the room, and look at what he's doing. And so
You must be afraid to be missed.
Yeah, I know.
I'm here.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So I got this other number, and eventually we got to the lots that I was interested in, and I was like that. And of course, the first time I did that, she wasn't looking, so I had to go, excuse me. And sorry. Yeah. And then when I did, she was going through, and she went, online with me, online with sales, in the room. And then she said, that's something I haven't said for a long time. I haven't said in the room for a long time, because we haven't had anybody in here for 2.5 years.
Wow, is that just because of COVID again?
Because of COVID,
Wow.
yeah, absolutely. So there I was, so it was good.
You do love
and
those
I did
sort
win.
of things though, when you're watching an auction happening though. Like I love it, especially Americans. They're just brilliant at it. They just rattle through them, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
So your knowledge of wine must take a lot of your time and your research. Like,
yeah, sure.
So the bottles, especially the older ones, like how have you managed to do the research? I imagine you've probably not tasted every wine in the world.
No,
So
absolutely
is
not.
it just all online research, or?
Yeah, a lot of it is. I mean, there's some great tools out there for, finding tasting notes and all that kind of stuff, and just generally information about it. The wine producers themselves are fairly good, especially with the older stuff, because they're like they themselves are like, oh wow, we don't have any of that, as it were, So I often, if I find a bottle, I will email the original producer of it,
What the company
that made it,
right, okay.
Because if you let's say, for example, if you take, say, Bordeaux in France, which is where a lot of the wines that we have come from there, because that's one of the regions of the world where the wines are known to last a very long time. So by the very nature, we have more Bordeaux than we do anywhere else. And obviously, and some of these producers, although they might be owned by different people now, they started in 16 whatever and 17 something or other. Well, with modern technology, I usually email them and say, oh, hi there, I found, and obviously you need to noise them up. So I say, hi there, I found a one of your wonderful wines from 19, whatever. Have you got any records? Can you tell me anything about it? And that's always a easy place to start. Yep. And then sometimes you get a response that says, as I say, it says, oh, wow, well, amazing. We don't have any of that. It was a great vintage. We made 20,000 bottles, and they give me as much detail as they have. And others,
sounds quite limited, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know. And others will go, no, sorry, we don't. We lost all our records.
Back in
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, quite, absolutely, yeah.
It's obviously a different time back then to
yeah,
what it is now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
no,
You
very
totally
much so.
appreciate that some of the stuff. So that must mean that you then get to taste it, to obviously have to. You've got to taste it to know,
Well, yeah. I mean, what I would say is, if we get a parcel of wine, if I buy a parcel of wine and there's several, bottles of the same thing, then I will try to taste it, absolutely. Often though, because we're getting one or two, they just need to go on the website and I need to just kind of look at them and give them a little stroke every now and again and tell myself I owned it for a brief amount of time, because
just picture your phone just full of pictures of you in the wine.
Yeah, there's a lot of that about. But at the same time, I'm a person with a car and a mortgage and a bloody blah and a bloody blah. So I can't afford to drink most of the wines that I sell. That's the truth of it. The
collectors, it just sounds mental, because you see it in some of these movies and things like that, where they go down to the basement and then they've got this big rack and it's just full of bottles, and just must be incredible. Obviously, that'll probably be prop wine. I'd imagine it would be prop bottles, but you can imagine the real collectors, how that must look.
Yeah,
it must be impressive.
Sure. Well, indeed. I mean, I've seen a few being constructed. So again, as one does, you try and collaborate, or with whoever you can. And so I've got a good contact in a company called just the wine cellar company, and he builds obviously cellars for people. Whether that be an entire room or a wall or even under the floor, you name it, he does the whole 9 yards.
Wow.
So I see quite a lot of the pictures that he does of the construction, because he does, like we all do, he uses social media to promote his business. So he does here's a grotty space in someone's basement,
Here's the after.
Yeah, exactly, and all of that kind of stuff. So through him I've seen some absolutely amazing cellars and
transformations that are just absolutely blow your mind away.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's amazing. And it's wine. I mean, somebody like myself, like I'm not a big wine drinker. I like a white wine with my, especially if I'm like a wedding or something. I love a white wine with dinner. I'm not a big fan. Not even like Buckfast or anything for me. Unfortunately, nothing like that. Paisley's most popular wine, probably.
Yeah, totally.
Never tried it. Never will. No. It just doesn't appeal to me at all. No. So. Maybe something to even talk about. Obviously, people coming in for the first time saying that they're maybe not too keen on it. Like, is there something you would maybe recommend to them? Like,
yeah, I think if the thing is even I, after all these years, there's so much wine out there, you can't possibly try it all. But I think if someone wants to get into wine, they can do no worse than going into the local supermarket and just buying 3 or 4 different wines and just trying them, and you go, no, don't like that one. Ooh, I quite like that one. No, and through doing that, you'll find the style of wine that you like, and then you can focus more on that. So it might be, for example, that the classic I hear from people is, oh, I don't like Chardonnay. A lot of people say that, and I think often...
Is there a certain reason for that?
Well, no, I think that so the thing is that really cheap wine, generally speaking, it isn't very good.
Right, okay.
Right, yeah. So when someone says, I don't like Chardonnay, I'm thinking, right, okay, either you've had like a bad experience... or actually you don't like Chardonnay. So it's then how do you find out? Yeah. How do you work that out? And I think that one of the things that kind of changed within wine over the years is that if before what's called the New World moved in, Australia, so forth, and they said, right, this is Chardonnay. So before that, you had the French wine, and you'd have, this is a Burgundy and this is a Chablis and this kind of thing. Well, Chablis is Chardonnay and so is Burgundy, but the two taste different. And they taste different from Australian Chardonnay or South African Chardonnay. They don't all taste the same. So again, it's about finding out which one suits your taste, as it were.
Could just be depending where it's produced then.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's the whole stylistic thing. Some white wines are spent fermented in big vats. Others are fermented in small oak barrels, and when they're in the small oak barrels, they take on some of the oaky flavours, and that's where, so using Chardonnay as example, they talk about sort of vanilla and butteriness and this kind of thing. Well, that comes from the oak, from the barrel, not from the grapes. So therefore, if that's the thing you don't like, you buy a Chardonnay that hasn't been in an oak barrel, it's going to taste completely different, and that's the one you might like.
That's meant to that. So down to the way it's produced, the taste and stuff. A lot of people probably just get, same mind as me before, obviously listening to this, that wine's wine. It's not. It's a total different art form.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's the whole taste. And funnily enough, I just recently wrote a blog on, and I called it "How to Taste Wine," because even that there is an art to it. And when I do the wine tastings, I use a couple of tricks that I have to get people thinking about it. And the first one I do involves Skittles. So, because the thing about
the sweet Skittles,
as in the sweet Skittles, indeed. Because if you put 3 or 4 Skittles in your mouth, right, but before you start chewing them or moving them around or whatever, you're holding your nose, you can't taste them at all. and as soon as you release your nose, you just get smacked.
Oh,
you just get smacked in the face with all the different. Because I mean, Skittles are probably the most sort of vibrant, flavoursome sweet you can get, and that always gets a real laugh out of people. Because first of all, they look at me like I've got two heads. What, you want me to hold my nose and eat Skittles? I've come to a wine tasting, you know. But it gets the point across that the sense of smell is really, really important in wine. And so when people kind of, you know, swirl the wine about and stick their nose in it.
Say they do that thing. They sniff it.
That's right. Yeah. That, you know, there's a real reason for that. It's not just because they think it's a good thing to do, because that's you starting to understand how that wine is going to taste.
All your senses are linked as well,
Yes,
which is a
correct.
big part of it as well.
Yeah.
And it is impressive when you see the whole swirling thing and then
Sure.
there'd be sniff here and stuff like that. Whereas I'm quite bad for just going, hey, thanks, good, right down the throat.
Yeah.
So maybe I should take some time to appreciate it. Maybe open my horizons to more wine.
Depends on the occasion, though, doesn't it?
Do you know, I've never had a red, or I've never had a, well, you're right. I've never had a red, and I've never had a rosé wine, I don't believe.
Okay. Okay.
But I've definitely had a white. I like a white wine. I'm not sure what white wine I like. I think I just like all white wine. Maybe just one of these things. But maybe I'll broaden my horizons. And definitely and even try it out in the supermarket first and have a couple.
Yeah.
I mean, as I say, you're 100% right. It all comes down to the quality. You know what I mean, not the quantity sometimes of wine.
Of course. And as I say, you know, don't get me wrong. This is the thing that I there's wines for all occasions, and good wine doesn't necessarily mean it has to be expensive wine. If the wine is well made, you know, is sort of typical of the region from where it comes and all the rest of it, then fabulous. And particularly at the moment, I mean, both Aldi and Lidl are doing really good wines.
They seem to import a lot of good things from different kind of countries and Germany and stuff like that.
Absolutely. And if you go on to social media, and obviously there's a few people that I follow on Instagram and stuff, and there's one guy particularly who's called the Affordable Wine Hunter, and he literally will say, right, I've just come out of Aldi and this was £6 and it's absolutely banging, you need to go buy this, you know. And I do because, you know, it's as I say, you can't drink the stuff that costs all the time. It's about like, you know, it's like anything else in its balance. You know?
100%.
You wouldn't have a fillet steak every night for your tea, even if you love fillet steak. So.
I like that though. I like that. It's not just about the expensive kind. You know what I mean? Like,
no,
and
definitely
Aldi
not.
does have great selections. Even with the beers and things like that.
No.
How many times I've heard go and get the German beer sort of stuff that they do. The kind of different brand. I know they do their different brands and things, but it's absolutely amazing stuff sometimes. Yeah,
and they're quite clever. Aldi are quite clever when you mention the beer there, which is slightly off topic for wine, but they've just done a tie-in with Brewdog. So Brewdog are now making a beer just for Aldi.
Oh, fantastic.
And it's called ADL IPA. So it's like, I know.
Is there a big X in the middle of it?
Yeah, exactly. Probably is. Yeah.
Oh, that is fantastic.
Yeah.
You briefly touched on it, obviously, that your store is all online. There's no physical store as of yet.
Yeah, that's correct.
So if the people were looking to buy wine or have a look through the selection that you have, or even to get in touch and inquire about you, do you want to even let us know what your website is?
Yeah, so we are www.thewine-cru spelled CRU.co.uk, and if somebody wants just to chat with we have two things. Obviously there's a contact form, but we use the WhatsApp function as well. So there's a WhatsApp function on the website, and that comes straight to me. So
that's amazing.
So if
you
anybody,
always have your person,
probably. Absolutely, and again, we don't want to be those people who've got a bot that answers the question, you know. And it's the same with the wines. We don't put anything on the website that we don't physically own, so that we can ship it quickly. Because one of the things that frustrates me as a consumer, online consumer, particularly in the world of wine, is bad for it. It happened to me just this week actually. That I've seen a bottle of wine I want to buy. I've ordered it online. Bang! I've paid a couple of extra quid to have it delivered the next day, and I get up the next morning and I get an email that says, "Dear Jonathan, really sorry, but the wine that you have ordered hasn't arrived into our warehouse yet. As soon as it does, we'll let you know." Why is it on your website?
Why is it on your website?
You know,
at least have a bit to say, like, I don't know, pre-order or something like that, or
correct
stock due
yes
in a couple of weeks or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That infuriates me.
Yeah,
as well.
me too.
Or you get that dreaded email where, sorry, this was a mistake listing, or this listing expired and we actually have no longer stock this.
Yeah.
Like, well, why is it there? Surely it's somebody's job to go through
Yeah,
this.
because in this day and age, I mean, that's the beauty of the beauty of websites these days, that they all do inventory. So
Yes.
you don't. So and I mean, which is just as well for us that they do, because obviously if we only have one bottle of something, as soon as somebody clicks buy, puts it in their basket, it destocks it so that somebody else can't get it. Now, hey, computer says no and all that. Occasionally there's a glitch and it happens, but you're talking once in a blue moon. So,
and that's why you should get in touch with the Wine Cru, especially if you're having a look for the website. It's never. I mean, you're never not allowed to ask a question.
No,
well.
Absolutely not. No, and I, as you'll probably gather if you're listening to this podcast, I love talking about wine. So I'm more than happy to talk to people if they've got any questions or anything like that at all.
And that's the thing. And if you've actually thought about hosting your own wine night as well, like whether you have your own networking event or you have some sort of event that you host as well. I mean, Jonathan and the Wine Cru are your people for that as well. I mean, I highly recommend getting in touch.
Thank you.
I mean, let's even talk about that, like your socials and things like that. Like, how would somebody find you? I know we talked about your website.
Yeah, so we're on Instagram as the Wine Cru UK, because annoyingly somebody else in America, in America, as they do. We're on Facebook, just the Wine Cru, and also Twitter. So Twitter as well, we're the Wine Cru UK, and I'm fairly active on LinkedIn. I'm there, so anybody who's interested in wine, if they look up Jonathan Mitchell, Wine Cru on LinkedIn, more than happy to connect with people and talk about wine.
And the one good thing that he hasn't mentioned, because he's been very polite, is that Jonathan does a fantastic thing every Wednesday.
Okay.
Called the Wine Cru Wednesday.
Wine Cru Wednesday.
I believe that you have a single bottle that you'll maybe discuss. Discuss that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So again, in this world of social media and as I say, people buy from people. So what I was trying to do is show myself, because especially when you only have a website, if you're like, we don't want to be that faceless thing. And
who is the Wine Cru?
Yeah, exactly. So it's a bit about showing who I am. Showing a bit of knowledge and showing some great bottles of wine that have maybe got a bit of different history to them or whatever it is, to give me something to talk about.
They're very, very good. I've really enjoyed them. And he does religiously post them every Wednesday.
I do indeed.
And it's very, very good.
Yeah.
Very, very good. It's nice to see something like that, and it's refreshing as well. And well done to you for obviously keeping up with social media, because a lot of people would probably drop that after a certain while, but fantastic. I've really enjoyed it. And cool. it's definitely working, because it's getting out there.
And I get, and the thing is, I don't know if you notice this as well. So when I do the Wine Cru Wednesday, when I've got the bottle of wine there, I have a small plastic stormtrooper who sits next to the bottle. And
Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, here we go. So obviously in the wine world you have sommeliers. So this guy's called the Stommelier, right? and it was started with total accent. So the very first one I didn't realise that he was sitting on my desk in shot, and I got more comments about the Stormtrooper than I did about the wine. So they're right, and as you do, we're always looking for that hook, aren't we? In social media.
Do you know what? If you can capture people,
absolutely,
it's all about product placement.
Yeah,
and that's
indeed.
We should have actually got a bottle of wine here.
Yeah, we
see if I can
done.
superimpose a bottle of wine here as well for the Wine Cru.
Yeah.
But no, listen, I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you very much for having me in to chat. It's been great.
It's been absolute pleasure. Your knowledge is amazing. Absolutely amazing when it comes to wine. As I say, I've really enjoyed watching your social journey as well. I think the wine nights, especially the tasting events, would be absolutely fantastic for all parties. Doesn't matter gender wise, big, small. I think Jonathan and the Wine Cru are your people you need to get in touch with. Have you got any plans for the business? Like, have you got anything coming up in the pipeline you want to talk about?
Well, one of the things that we're looking at is kind of slightly off wine, in the sense that when we do the wine event, sometimes we do sort of food platters, food boards, grazing boards, that kind of stuff. And it just purely by chance and accident, a wee while ago, somebody messaged me and said, the food boards, would you just do that? Because I'm having a night. Wine's not the right thing for this night, but I need some food. Would you do the food?
Right,
so
okay.
we're like, yeah, of course we will, because it's our business. We can do what we want.
Yep, exactly.
You know. So I guess the next thing will be, and we're obviously going to market it slightly different without the words Wine Cru in the marketing of it.
The grazing crew.
Well, almost, yeah. I think we're torn at the moment between Southside Deli Boards and Southside Grazing, one of the two,
Okay.
for that very reason. But again, it's still an opportunity for us to then introduce ourselves as the Wine Cru, even though we're just doing food, because not everybody wants wine.
No, and that's it. And a lot of these people for parties and things will definitely pick up on that as well.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's nice to know that you've got that other service there that you can also offer in a partnership as such. So, no, fantastic. You're doing amazing.
Thank you.
Doing great things, and obviously bigger things to come as well in the future.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
one day a store. Yeah. You never know these days. Sometimes it's better just online anyway. That's where everybody's all done from anyway these days, isn't it? So
Yeah, true.
one of these things. But listen, thanks so much for coming on. I really do appreciate you coming on, Jonathan.
No, and thank you very much. It's been great, coming here and doing this. As you said, my second time here, and certainly if anybody's thinking about getting into podcasting, then you're definitely the man that they should be in contact with,
Didn't even need to pay him for that. He's just done it for me. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
This is all about helping businesses, this podcast as well. But I think the thing that when people are watching this, like, you can rent this space, like this could be yours. This could be customized to your space as well. But listen, thank you so much for joining us. And for those listening at home, thank you so much. If you're watching on YouTube, then you can leave a like. Also leave a comment. Do you have a favourite bottle of wine that you have or that you've had before? Is there something that you maybe want Jonathan to source? Maybe he's got a bit of a expertise in. Let us know in the comments below. You can also subscribe as well, which massively helps the channel, obviously grows it. And for Spotify listeners, if you're listening, you can leave a review. You can also share the podcast out, let the people know. I mean, let's get Jonathan's business absolutely booming.
Thank you.
Because I can guarantee you most of you listening to this are wine lovers. But for now, thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks.